So last year, Mickey Mouse entered the public domain, specifically this Steamboat Willie version of the character, which means that you can use this work in any way that you want. And people have been working on some pretty creative things. For example, a horror movie, and a horror game, and another horror movie, and another horror movie, and another horror movie, and yet another horror movie. The possibilities are seemingly endless. What will they think of next? Previously on the channel, I looked at 3 horror films that were based around beloved children's characters. That was Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, The Mean One, and Pinocchio's Revenge. I know the thumbnail makes it look like I hated all these, but honestly I didn't. I lied for the attention and I'll do it again. I thought The Mean One was really creatively done. It used a lot of the Grinch elements in really interesting ways and made for a really entertaining watch. It didn't take itself too seriously, and you can tell that the people making it had a lot of interest in exploring the different avenues that they could take with the property. There's lots of different little references sprinkled throughout. The tone was really on point. On the other hand, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey was a pretty terrible movie that, for the most part, did not utilize the lore and characters very well at all. It was a pretty general, gory slasher film, but they did have some references sprinkled throughout. There's a little storybook-style intro that I quite liked. Winnie the Pooh eats honey, I guess. I think he kills someone with bees or something. It wasn't very memorable. It felt to me a little bit more like a cash grab than a movie that someone actually wanted to make. Although if you're into dumb slasher films, this isn't a super painful experience. Don't ask me about Pinocchio's Revenge, I don't remember it. Recently, a trailer came out for the movie Screamboat, which is a horror comedy based on Steamboat Willie, from the same people who made The Mean One. It also stars David Howard Thornton as the titular mouse. He played The Mean One, as well as Art the Clown from the Terrifier franchise. Do I have any confidence that this movie's going to be good? Not exactly, but what I do expect is that they'll be using the character in a authentic, self-referential way. Trailer's even done in that classic Disney style, with the nostalgic voiceover narration.
Coming soon from the wonderful world of Willie. Set sail for an adventure like no other.
The main cast is also seemingly based on the Disney princesses, so they're not just relying on the fact that Steamboat Willie is public domain, they're also going into that parody aspect, which is also protected by law. So in preparation for this movie, I thought I'd check out one of the Mickey Mouse horror films that has already come out. Mickey's Mousetrap, also known as The Mousetrap. And let me tell you, I deeply regret watching this. I wish I hadn't bloody done it. This movie was absolutely terrible. I went into this with low expectations, and yet it still didn't exceed them. They were clearly just trying to get something out using this IP as quickly as possible. I think I try and be a little nicer when I do these reviews, and kind of generally I get some enjoyment out of all movies. This one I really struggled with. But before we get into it, what we should really do is have a look at the original work, Steamboat Willie, so we can see what kind of aspects they might reuse here for their reimagining. With these older cartoons, and I don't quite know what it is, I always find them kind of inherently creepy. They feel kind of twisted in a way that cartoons aren't now. So I do think using this cartoon is a really good jumping off point for a horror movie. Mickey Mouse charters a steamboat down a river, whistling an iconic tune. Captain Pete takes his aggression out on Mickey before he orders him off the bridge, where he's taunted by a parrot. Mickey, in a fit of rage, throws a bucket at the parrot. We can only imagine what horrific liquids were inside that bucket as the once joyful bird screams in fear. Captain Pete eats a whole box of chewing tobacco. Who knows what kind of traumatic past this character had, why he feels the need to abuse this substance. Whatever the reason, he is unknowing of the horrors that are taking place on deck. The boat docks. Mickey attempts to lift a cow onto the ship using a pulley system. The cow is initially too skinny for the harness, resulting in Mickey to force feed it. He's not leaving without his prize. Minnie Mouse barely misses the boat, so she chases it. Mickey catches her by hooking her with a cargo crane. A close call for Minnie. A goat eats a ukulele and it rattles around inside of it, playing musical notes. This spurs something deep and sadistic inside Mickey. They find that if they turn its tail like a crank, it plays a song. So Mickey starts jamming out, first with spoons, then pots, a mallet. Then he turns to utilizing a cat, a goose, and even a pig and her young that are used in various devious different musical ways. There are no bounds to this creature's cruelty. The cow's teeth are used as a xylophone. This is a ship of horrors that never ends. For his insolence, the much larger Captain Pete locks Mickey away once and for all, where he is forced to chop potatoes with a huge knife. The parrot returns to laugh at Mickey, but he gets too close, becoming his final victim as Mickey throws not the knife, but the potato, proving that anything in Mickey's hands are a deadly weapon. What I can only assume to be blood splashes through the window. Although he's locked away for good, the memory of this final act will keep Mickey entertained for eternity. So there's a lot to work with here. There's a lot of tools that Mickey could easily be using as weapons. Anyways, the boat could be used, the different animals, the song that plays throughout the short, the whistling. Maybe Mickey will turn someone's teeth into a xylophone. But obviously Mickey Mouse has a long storied history. There's a lot of different ways that this character can be represented. So I'll be making sure that as we go through it, we'll be taking taking notes to compare to the original work. We'll be seeing how much crossover there is here. Let's try and pick up on things together. Will it be using the character in a thoughtful way, or is this just a mindless cash grab? Let's find out. Mickey's Mousetrap opens with a Star Wars style crawl, which while I guess is a Disney property, it's also a very incredibly unfunny joke. In this, they clarify that the film is not affiliated with Disney and that Disney won't return their calls and that they love Disney. It goes on for a minute and a half too long, and it's probably the worst way to start a movie. But this isn't even the worst creative decision that the film makes. Not by a mile. Two police detectives question Rebecca, a goth girl who's locked in a cell. She's the survivor of some kind of mass murder. She's both unnecessarily cryptic and the narrative framing device that they keep cutting to throughout the story. The events of the film are what she's describing to the police officers. We're then shown some clips of the original animation setting up a potential vibe for the film. We cut to the Fun Haven, a bustling arcade. You may notice that this isn't a steamboat. So far, there is no reference to a steamboat at all. If you're waiting for a boat, you're gonna be waiting a long time. There's no bloody boat in this thing. We're introduced to Alex, who's the main character, who is dealing with two different children. First guy tells her that she needs to get a boyfriend, and then the next asks her to kill one of the other kids who was mean to her.
What do you do, Rachel? Just kill him.
We're also introduced to her co-worker Jaina and their British boss Tim. Tim informs them that although they close in 3 minutes, they just got a last-minute booking, meaning that the two of them need to stay 3 hours past closing to accommodate this. I'm not sure if that's how bookings work, but for the sake of the story, let's just go with it. We cut back to the police questioning where they ask Rebecca if she knows what happened to Tim Collins, as he's missing but his body was never found. They suggest that maybe he's the killer, but she says that she's got no idea what happened to him. This mystery lingers over us for a whole minute. Tim goes into what seems to be his private theater room featuring colored LED lights and printed out posters of his favorite movies, all based on public domain characters. This includes a very authentic Steamboat Willie poster and an actually authentic 1960s Mickey Mouse mask. He also has Steamboat Willie on film, which he proceeds to watch with a glass of Absolut vodka. Definitely not product placement, and for the first time I can safely say that's actually true. There's no way they sponsored this. This is my favorite way to wind down after a hard day's work. Kicking back with a glass of vodka, watching my favorite 7.5-minute cartoon. He hears a laugh and is drawn towards the screen. The mask then starts talking to him Green Goblin style.
I can see you.
The LED lights are switched to red, which means evil, as he walks towards the mask. Meanwhile, Alex and Jaina are cleaning to prepare for an incoming booking. I guess all the kids had lots of coffee to drink because that seems to be all they're throwing away here. Coffee cups. Jaina decides she wants to meet up with a guy, promising to come back later, leaving Alex to fend for herself. For some reason, Alex doesn't do any work for a bit and just has a little montage of her playing around the arcade machines. So a huge issue that I had with this movie is that anytime anyone uses an arcade machine outside of the opening montage, is that it's never actually activated. You can tell that they haven't put money in it. These machines are not actually working. Here, she's using a real baseball bat with a VR headset. That is not how this works. This machine isn't even for VR. This is some kind of Twister thing. Alex then gets a call on the phone, but there's no response. It then cuts back to the police station where the detectives are asking Rebecca how she knew that if she wasn't there. And they go back and forth on that for a while. But there's also seemingly no reason for any of this. Why do we care that she got a phone call and then nobody talked? That doesn't mean anything. It's got nothing to do with anything. Also, the police station has the exact same lights as the arcade and the home theater setup. What's up with that? I do want to clarify that I'll never ever trash a movie for being low budget. There's been phenomenal movies that have been made for next to nothing. What really does matter though is how well you can disguise the fact that your film was low budget. And unfortunately, this movie does a terrible job at that. It would have been very easy to put this lighting out of frame for most of the shots, or just use regular lighting and then color correct it later. They didn't do this. Alex begins to hear the iconic whistling echoing throughout the arcade, and she catches a hidden Mickey messing around with chains. She flees the scene right into her very own surprise party. Her friends are the ones who rented out the venue for her birthday. For some reason here, she immediately forgets about the Mickey Mouse guy with the chain. She was probably too distracted by the party atmosphere. Can you imagine a closer looking group of friends? Such a vibe hanging out with these guys. So much group chemistry going on here. Now, all these people probably have names, but who cares? I don't think I've covered the acting yet in this, but in general, it's pretty bad. A lot of very flat delivery. We better talk about some of the more important characters. Rebecca is there. The nerd guy is Marcus, who kind of organized this. This is her childhood best friend. The guy in the hockey shirt is Ryan, who lots of people don't like. He and Marcus especially don't get along. You might notice that this is the same shirt that the manager Tim was wearing. I have a feeling that the initial plan while making this film was to make it a bit of a whodunit. Have it not be super clear on who the killer was. was. But maybe they changed their minds on this a little later on, because it feels so random to have Tim, who was meant to be British, be wearing the same hockey jersey as someone who's barely old enough to drink. Later on in the film, they jump through some hoops to kind of explain why Tim has the same jersey. Apparently, he was the team's coach back in the 90s, but he got hit in the head with one too many hockey pucks. Polo shirt guy and girl in pink decide to sneak off to do things to each other when Marcus states that they're so dead.
Man, he's dead.
What?
Like if he was in a horror movie, you'd never say, "I'll be right back," because then you don't.
Obviously, hopefully this is a Scream reference, but it just feels so forced. It was the most disjointed way to put this in. Everyone else also thinks it was weird for him to say that, which is so valid. Back at the station, the police ask Rebecca if Marcus is the killer, and someone in the scene stated that he had serial killer vibes. But then they note that she wasn't even there to hear any of this. I'm gonna stop talking about every single time that they cut to her in a cell, because honestly, it's so boring. They cut to her another 8 times in this movie, and every single time, it's so irrelevant. It's always the same conversation. What happened, Rebecca? I don't know. How'd you hear about it? General excuse. Who's the killer? I'm not sure. Alright, go on. Ryan phones up his hockey friends who are at the neighboring bar. He's planning for them to rough up Marcus, as he feels like Marcus and Alex are too close. You see, Ryan's also interested in Alex, so there's a bit of a love triangle going on here. Cuts back to the police station and no, been one scene. Why are you back at the police station? Move on. There's no new information. The group agrees to a no phone policy, so everyone puts their mobiles in a bag. Great decision, feels very natural. Just a couple friends living in the moment. We also find out that Rebecca is also into Alex, making it a 4-sided love triangle. My favorite kind of triangle. This is also completely unneeded information because I don't think Rebecca and Alex have a single conversation in the whole movie. Meanwhile, the couple in the playground get done in by Mickey. We don't actually see anything, we just kind of see Mickey running at them like this. Feel free to determine for yourself if this is scary. I thought it would have been really cool if you could always hear Mickey whistle before he kills someone to kind of build up some tension. Feels like an easy way to do it. But no, instead he just charges at them. Ryan professes his love to Alex, and I'm starting to lose track on whether I'm watching a horror film or a rom-com at this point. There's been more scenes dedicated to Alex's love life than there have been to the Mickey Mouse horror villain. Alex decides that they should head to a real bar, so they make their way towards the door. I guess they just do this without collecting all their friends together. But when they get to the front door, they find it chained. So then they head to the back door, and it too is locked. Obviously, the bag of phones also got stolen. They think that the missing couple is pulling a prank on them, so they split up to go find him. Marcus and Alex have a little moment where he takes off his glasses, and then he never puts them back on. I guess the LED lights kept reflecting off them. Meanwhile, Ryan runs into Mickey in the playground, but then Rebecca sees him at the same time in laser tag. Here we see Mickey has a knife, which we can only assume is a reference to the classic potato cutting scene of the original work. Mickey lunges at her, revealing that he can teleport, which must be a reference to something else. We also find out his weakness, light. Look how he runs. This is just what I want to see from my horror character. I kind of think this strobe effect is meant to be referencing that film reel flashing that we see earlier on, but in saying that, I'm not exactly sure of why he's meant to be weak to that. The movie doesn't really explore the topic. Back in the playground in what looks to be the same hallway that everyone's running into Mickey in, one of the group, whose name I don't know, I'm gonna call her Blonde Lady, runs into Mickey. She manages to escape him even though we know at this point that he can teleport. While everyone else fights for their lives, Marcus surprises Alex with her birthday present. Every sour candy from around the world. Were they just gonna leave this behind when they were gonna go to that bar earlier? Like, this is pretty well set up. He didn't have this with him when he left for the bar. I'm starting to think that this film wasn't very well thought out. They're interrupted by the lady who was chased earlier, and she tells them that Ryan has gone crazy. She assumes it's Ryan because of the jersey. So Alex goes off to turn on all the lights, but she tells the others to stay where they are, meaning that she goes off alone. Marcus was literally the guy who said never go by yourself in a horror movie. He had no reason to say this before, but now he knows he actually is in one. Now would be the time to say that, but he doesn't. He just lets her leave. Then he goes off to find a landline to call for help, which is exactly what Alex is doing. But naturally, the phones and computers don't work. But look, a Steamboat Willie reference.
All you're trying to reach is dead.
Remember the hockey players? They're finishing up their drinks and about to head to the arcade when they're interrupted by the terrifying Mickey Mouse. Look at the aura this guy radiates. Also, the guy's beard now sticks out through the mask. It's definitely a deliberate choice, but it's still a strange one. They assume Mickey is Marcus for some reason, so they go to attack him, but he expertly takes them out. A perfectly choreographed scene. No notes. The movie kind of alludes to these people being dead, which might make this the lamest murder scene in horror history. Now, what's Mickey Mouse most most known for. If you said pulling little pranks, you are correct. He turns on the roller coaster which one of the people was taking a nap on, which freaks him out. Truly psychopathic, unhinged behavior. He also poses the dead couple's bodies, which means we've finally seen a dead person 52 minutes into the movie. One of the group is playing this game in VR, and Mickey spends the next couple of minutes pulling little pranks on her instead of just murdering her. This scene literally goes nowhere. Marcus says they should trigger the fire alarm, which is actually a really good idea, but the only switch for it is back in the office. He once again lets the group split up. Hoodie guy and goth girl meet up but are chased by the killer. At the same time, the VR woman runs into Alex in the office where she's promptly killed by Mickey. Is it just me, or is this teleporting thing starting to feel really cheap? Like it's just an excuse for the writers to be lazy. Also, if they're just gonna kill her off like this, why couldn't they have just done it in the VR scene? This movie is missing an iconic kill, and this could have easily been that moment. Back at laser tag, Rebecca trips and Mickey slices her ankle. The other dude turns to save her, but he's quickly murdered. We don't see what happens to Rebecca. Alex goes and tells the others that the killer can teleport, and Marcus just kind of accepts it.
I know that sounds crazy.
Oh, no, it's not crazy. A guy dressed as Mickey Mouse is killing us. Teleportation is still very much on the table.
Call me crazy, but I don't think that's comparable. It just feels like maybe a little bit of a leap in judgment. Alex says the fire brigade should arrive in 10 minutes, which is crazy because the film still has 15 minutes of runtime left. Character that I forgot about, Jaina, shows up again, but she's quickly taken out by Mickey. You think they could do the iconic whistling before he just kills people, but instead he just taunts them like a goblin. They find Ryan, who just thinks he passed out or something, and they don't trust him, but then they do trust him. The group of survivors all band together as Mickey comes for them. Alex uses the light, which for some reason doesn't really work anymore, but thankfully a baseball bat does work. Ryan pins him with a chair and the blonde lady shines a light on him, which I guess now does immobilize him. Then nobody follows through in this, and he manages to knock the light and teleport away. But the group now knows that they can beat him. They decide to set a trap. A mouse trap. Mickey walks into the playground and is stunned by the lights. He throws his knife very poorly and it kind of just bounces off the net. And then he throws his wrench at Blonde Lady because Mickey doesn't learn from his mistakes. He then throws a thing at Marcus. Who cares? Stop doing this. Why are you doing this, Mickey? You know this doesn't work. He's not smart. He's not good at throwing. He's weak to light. He's got no aura. He can teleport, but he's terrible at catching people. I don't know about this guy. They activate the trap, which makes the room darker for some reason, but trust me, it's actually light. The two blokes are then able to attack him and then pin him down. They've won! Hooray! Just kidding. He teleports behind Alex, beheads her with the sword, and then the film just kind of ends.
I never got to ask her out. And he just cut her head off.
That's what this was. The police leave Rebecca locked up, seemingly blaming her for the crime, even though there's other survivors who can surely vouch for her. They even say that other people survived, but also they call her the sole survivor. So I don't really know what's going on there. To make matters more confusing, there's this end credit scene in which Mickey frees her from her cell, implying that she was in on it the whole time, which makes no sense. And nothing was really alluded to in the story about this other than the fact that she knew details that she wouldn't possibly know. Overall, I thought this film was terrible, and not even in the so bad it's good way. It was just bad. It takes more than half the runtime for anything to actually happen. It also really had nothing to do with Mickey Mouse at all. It really was just the most generic slasher film possible, except with a Mickey Mouse mask instead of some other kind of mask. This whole aspect felt like such an afterthought. I'm not even sure the people who made this have watched a single Disney film in their life. Maybe they were too afraid to commit to this fully in case they got sued. That's really the only reason I can think of. I honestly think I'm a pretty easy audience. All I really need is a movie to be fun, but this really just felt like a lazy, rushed mess in every aspect. I hope it gets a sequel though, because I do genuinely have some kind of sick curiosity inside me. I really want to know what they were actually going for here. If you've seen this movie, make sure to let me know your thoughts. Was I too mean to it? Did I miss any little references? For now, I guess I'm just going to look forward to Screamboat, seeing a different take, or at least an actual take on the whole Mickey Mouse aspect. If you know any other films you think I should check out, make sure to let me know. I really hope you guys are enjoying the more regular content. I plan on keeping it up. I got some big ones I'm working on and some other smaller ones like this. If you like this video, maybe check out my other video on the beloved character to horror movie pipeline, or maybe my video on Titanic 666. I don't know. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it.